This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
Next on the 5 o'clock report.
You are not alone, and there is hope, and there is healing.
This bill gets Americans back to winning again.
What the Senate did to our bill was unconscionable.
We thought it was an earthquake. Yeah, I was really scared.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
A conclusion to the Kohberger case. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Webster. We begin with the end of a high-profile criminal case involving a Pennsylvania man, Brian Kohberger, who today accepted a plea agreement in an Idaho courtroom in which he admitted to fatally stabbing 4 University of Idaho students in late 2022. District Judge Stephen Hippler.
Let me ask you, did you, on November 13th, 2022, enter the residence at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho, with the intent to commit the felony crime of murder?
Yes.
Attorney Leander James represents victim family members who support the plea, ending the potential death penalty case.
For all parents who have endured the loss of a child, we know recovery is a long and at times an almost unbearable journey. But you are not alone, and there is hope, and there is healing.
But Steve Consalves, father of victim Kaylee Consalves, is upset with the deal.
It's my daughter. It's our children. How can you say it's just when you haven't even talked to us? They told me it's not really about us. It's about their process. Just shut up and get on board and deal with it. That's really what they told us. Idaho's failed. They failed me. They failed my whole family.
The plea deal locks Kohberger away for life with no possibility of parole or appeal. Official sentencing set for July 23rd. Well, the other big story this day is on Capitol Hill, where the House is taking its second shot at a massive budget bill, which is the cornerstone of President Donald Trump's second term. House Speaker Mike Johnson.
85 to 90% of this bill is the House-generated product. The Senate made some modifications to it. They made it more conservative in some places and moderated it a little bit in others.
Republicans are a House divided on the plan. Thumbs up from North Carolina's Virginia Fox.
This bill gets Americans back to winning again.
Thumbs down from South Carolina's Ralph Norman.
What the Senate did to our bill was unconscionable. I'll vote against it here, and I'll vote against it on the floor till we get it right.
A test vote could come before the day is out as backers try to push the legislation through to President Trump's desk by the 4th of July. Many Americans aren't waiting until the 4th to begin celebrating the long Independence Day weekend. One look at the highways and airports will tell you that.
AAA says today is expected to be one of the busiest travel days of the July 4th holiday period, which started on Saturday and ends on Sunday, July 6th. More than 72 million people will travel at least 50 miles or more from home, up almost 2 million from last year.
That's Fox's Tanya J. Powers. Some stormy weather along the East Coast hasn't been doing early travelers any favors. Over 4,000 flight delays across the U.S. today. Well, some major thunder. This Fairfax, Virginia man's house took a lightning hit.
It definitely scared me. Maybe 10 to 15 minutes later, started to smell smoke and then heard a siren and got out of my house.
Firefighters were able to quickly douse those flames. Independence Day fireworks got an early and unplanned start in Northern California when a warehouse full of fireworks exploded in spectacular fashion Tuesday evening. It happened about 40 miles north of Sacramento, sending plumes of smoke billowing some 15,000 feet into the air. These nearby residents got a fireworks show they didn't really want.
All of a sudden, the whole house just started shaking, and then, it shook again. We thought it was an earthquake. Yeah, I was really scared.
Can't blame you. Amazingly, no injuries reported. The blast, though, did spark a wildfire in the area. Well, if you're doing that holiday traveling in a Ford, listen up. Ford's recalling more than 200,000 vehicles due to a software defect that can cause the rear view cameras to fail. Models including the F-150, Bronco, and Mustang, as well as Lincoln Aviators, Navigators, and Continentals, all covered by that recall. Dealerships expected to update the camera software for free. They'll notify owners by letter by July 28th. Former U.S. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development and retired neurosurgeon Dr. Ben Carson speaking out on what ails America. In a recent podcast appearance with Pastor Alan Jackson, Carson said it's clear that evil spiritual forces are at work in the USA, trying to tear apart the fabric of the nation.
We have completely illogical things going on as some forces try to indoctrinate our kids, remove from them any sense of patriotism, take little children who are suggestible and confuse them about their gender. Crazy stuff like that. You couple that with the cultural war on the traditional nuclear family and the fact that we as a society have denigrated the whole process of marriage, all of the fundamental building blocks of a strong society. And we're starting to see the consequences of those things.
And Dr. Carson isn't optimistic those trends can be reversed, citing biblical prophecy on the increased corruption of society in later times, but stresses it's still crucial for Christians to continue to be faithful no matter what and continue to help as many people as possible to see the light and hope of Christ. And call it This Old House the Papal Edition, the tiny Dalton, Illinois childhood home of Pope Leo XIV has been sold to the town. Hopes are high among the mayor and others that it'll kickstart the Chicago suburb's reputation.
It's a great start for our community. It's a great moment. It's a historic moment, once in a lifetime.
We actually have an opportunity to put some good attention.
The purchase was approved by the board Tuesday for an undisclosed price, one that the owner says was less than what he was hoping for. The site's already attracted Roman Catholic pilgrims. The Pope's parents bought the small post-war brick house brand new in 1949. Still to come here on the 5 o'clock report. What's up with the Pennsylvania budget? Will ICE be making an appearance at the New York State Fair? And looking at the implications of the U.S. Supreme Court ruling on parental rights.
I'm Kevin Williams, and here is your Family Life regional weather forecast for tonight. Partly cloudy skies, late night shower, thunder shower near Lake Erie, low temp 60s. Tomorrow, plenty of cloudiness, couple of showers and thunder showers. High temperatures mid 70s to the mid 80s. Friday, the 4th of July, good deal of sunshine, scattered mixed clouds, and comfortable with high temperatures 70s and low 80s. Warming up with plenty of sun Saturday into Sunday.
Thank you very much, Kevin. And now checking the stories making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania. So just what is up with the Pennsylvania budget?
Reality is the parties are still far apart in negotiations. We're not at the finish line just yet.
That's Republican Representative Tim O'Neill, Democratic House member Jordan Harris.
Listen, I've always said that more important than a budget deadline date was making sure that we have a budget that meets the priorities of the people of Pennsylvania.
School districts say they're frustrated that Harrisburg just can't get its fiscal house together. Allison Mathis is president of the State School Board Association.
Year after year, school districts and taxpayers face delays in budget passage, which is undermining public confidence in elected officials.
But Tim O'Neill says there's no need for schools to hit the panic button.
We've got plenty of time to figure this out before any school district should be nervous. If they continue to budget fiscally responsibly, there should be no issue late into the year.
Pennsylvania hasn't had an on-time budget in 3 years. The New York State Fair is coming up pretty soon, and fair officials are making it clear ICE agents will have to identify themselves with fair administrators before conducting any immigration enforcement operations there.
We applaud the State Fair for actually taking this step.
Miran Owada with the New York Immigration Coalition.
They put guidelines in place, and their guidelines are clear. They don't want ICE operating at the State Fair warrantlessly.
Immigrants make up a large percentage of the State Fair workforce. ICE agents say they're not planning to conduct any raids during the fair, which runs August 20th through September 1st. A spokesperson says their focus is on dangerous criminals in the country illegally. Up next, highlights from today's Real Answers. Licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson spoke with me about last week's huge U.S. Supreme Court ruling on parental rights and affirming parents' rights when it comes to opting their kids out of instruction they deem incompatible with their faith.
One of the key things to know about this case is two things were highlighted. The first was that it was right along party lines, or let's say ideological lines. The 6 conservative-leaning justices ruling in favor of the parental rights, whereas the 3 liberal judges ruled more in favor of the schools being able to decide what your children learn. So for all parents, really, this is a fantastic ruling that's going to have far-reaching ramifications, especially for Christians and other faiths, too, that do not want to have certain agendas shoved down their throats, to use the common vernacular of the day.
Yeah, okay, we should probably quickly recap. This actual specific case was a ruling in Maryland that parents could opt their children out of a public school system there, teaching lessons that contain themes about homosexuality and transgenderism if they feel the material conflicts with their faith. And lot of parents there feel exactly that way.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, you're going to find these sentiments shared by parents across the nation. It's just unreal that how in the past 15 years or so, we have seen a significant shift in the cultural institutions and the educational institutions away from parents being able to not only know what their kids are being taught, but have any kind of say or being even informed. So this is just a tremendously huge ruling. It really is a blessing that the Supreme Court gave parents back the rights to their own children, basically. So this is just a phenomenal ruling, and I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, a lot of folks are, for sure. Even teacher unions seem to be split on whether that high court ruling was a good thing, which is concerning in and of itself. There certainly are different schools of thought, pardon the pun. I guess a key point here, among many, is that having rights as a parent isn't the same as exercising those rights.
Exactly. And that's one thing that all parents need to do, is understand what their role is from this point forward, and to communicate with their school boards and their administrators of their local school districts and find out exactly how they're going to communicate to the parents, or how are they going to be able to opt their children out from certain types of instruction, because you have to, as a parent, be aware that there is going to be a role for you to play in this. It's not going to be an automatic. They're not going to send home flyers or announcements letting you know. You're going to have to find out how to go about exercising your role as a parent if you do want to opt your children out. So I'd strongly encourage you to connect with your administrators, connect with your school board members. But something I really want to enforce very firmly with folks is to make sure you drive home the idea that you opting out in no way means that you hate the people who hold the opposing viewpoints. This has been a real strategy of folks to say, well, if you disagree with me, that must mean you hate me. Or if you don't support me, or you don't support my views, then you're against me. That's just a total strategy from the enemy. We have to really make sure that when we're communicating about this, we're doing it with grace, yet firmly, and trying to drive home that point that just because we hold to biblical values that others do not appreciate, that we're not hating the other people. We're just saying this is not what we believe in our faith, and that does not mean that we hate folks who do hold the other values. So that's something we really need to communicate, because that strategy of the enemy is going to be continuing to be used through all of this. We have to be very vigilant. Get around the dinner table. Talk to your kids about what they're learning.
That's licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson on today's edition of Real Answers, talking about last week's big U.S. Supreme Court decision affirming parental rights in their kids' public school education. Hear the entire episode, along with all of our Family Life original features, at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or at FamilyLife.org. This is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
When a loved one dies, are you responsible for his or her debts? Hi, I'm Rob West with a Faith and Finance Minute. The answer depends on the type of debt and your relationship to it. Federal student loans are discharged when the borrower dies. No one else is responsible. Some private lenders will do the same, but not all of them. A cosigner, however, may still be liable. As for credit cards, most card companies will seek payment from the deceased person's estate. But if you were a joint cardholder with the person who died, the debt will become yours. Mortgages and auto loans typically follow a similar pattern. The debt passes to a co-owner or an heir, but only if they choose to keep the asset. Keep in mind, state laws vary, so when in doubt, seek professional guidance. Get biblical answers to your financial questions in the Faith Fi community. Download Faith Fi, Faith and Finance, in your app store or visit faithfi.com.
Still to come here on the 5 o'clock report, telling unruly high school students to take a hike, literally.
I'm Kevin Williams, and here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. On the latest weather map, we're looking at a cold front that's going to cross our region tomorrow, generating a couple of showers and thunder showers. But the front keeps on moving. In its wake, high pressure moves in with still high prospects for a nice 4th of July and a pretty warm summery weekend. The call for tonight: partly cloudy skies, late night shower, thunder shower near Lake Erie, low temp 60s. Tomorrow, plenty of cloudiness, couple of showers and thunder showers. High temperatures mid-70s to the mid-80s. Friday, the 4th of July, good deal of sunshine, scattered mixed clouds, and comfortable with high temperatures, 70s and low 80s, warming up with plenty of sun Saturday into Sunday.
All right, sounds pretty decent there, Kevin. Thank you very much. Finally, at 5, well, you get in enough trouble in high school, that usually means detention. These students did the crime and were set to do the time.
I yelled at a teacher rudely because I didn't feel like doing something, and when they tried to make me do it, I got angry and yelled at them.
Probably like skipping class or like added up tardies. Never like actually like getting in trouble.
Playing video games in my teacher's class, and she got mad at me.
Well, yeah, that happens, but those students at Morse High School in Bath, Maine got something else instead. School counselor Leslie Trundy tells Maine Public Radio she's offering detention students an alternative that's proving popular, a 2-hour-long hike along a nearby nature trail. Some critics say that's not really punishment, but says Trundy,
my hope was that time in the woods, like I could sort of take the skills that I have on the road with them or on the trail and be a listener for them and pay back the time to the school and sort of serve their consequence, but also receive more care and attention.
Trying attention over detention in Bath, Maine. And that's the world we live in for Wednesday, July 2nd, 2025. Thank you again for joining us. I'm Mark Webster, Family Life News.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.